So I think today I'm just going to keep going and keep reading into chapter 31. Because what can we comment on these previous chapters without a long period of time to explain and go over it? Basically, the devotees have to become enthusiastic for these topics and perhaps collect in different groups of devotees. Even groups as small as 2 or 3 is sufficient. I always remember Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. He was talking about doing bhajan and how many people do you need to associate with. And he was saying that perhaps even 3 or 4 is sufficient. It's not that you need 20 or 30 devotees. You just need 2 or 3 confidential devotees who are on the same page, more or less, and actually want to go in this direction. That's enough. Even one devotee who wants to move in this direction is sufficient. But it's very helpful, of course, to have another devotee, especially a devotee that we think is more senior to us. This Svajatiya Shnigdha Ashraya. Svajatiya in the same mood, wanting the teaching of Mahaprabhu, this Manjari Bhav. Svajatiya Shnigdha is affectionate, and Ashraya, we feel, is more senior. So that is the sort of association that we desire. So I'm going to start reading chapter 31. This is Madhurya Ras Vichar, Swakya Nayikas and Krishna Swarup as Madhurya Ras Nayak. It was a very pleasant time in the autumn season. So now we understand Rath Yatra has finished and Vijay Kumar has remained in Puri. One night at about 10 o'clock, the earth had put on a sari of cool and gentle moonlight, and her beauty had become intensely attractive. Vijay Kumar was reading Ujjvala Nilamani and pondering deeply on the subject matter when his gaze suddenly fell upon the auspicious radiance of the moonlight. His heart became filled with an indescribable rapture, and he thought, this is a very beautiful time. Why not go immediately and have darshan of Sundara Chal? I have heard that whenever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had darshan of Sundara Chal, he saw a spurti of Brajadam. Thinking like this, he set off alone in the direction of Sundara Chal. Yes, he's alone now. By this time, Vijay Kumar was taking instructions in the practice of bhajan in pure Madhurya Ras. His thoughts only flowed towards hearing about Krishna's Braja Leela, and specifically Sri Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. Any other topics had become tasteless to him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is really giving us the full path here. He passed Bagalagandi and made his way toward Shradhabali. As he saw the small forests on either side, a spurti of Vrindavan manifested before his eyes. He became overwhelmed with prem and said, Aho, I am so very fortunate. I am having darshan of that Brajabhumi, which is extremely difficult to attain, even for the devatas such as Brahma. How beautiful these forest bowers are. Look at this Kunjavana. Oh, what am I seeing? Within this mandap of Madhavimalati creepers, the master of my life, Sri Krishna, is sitting with the gopis and laughing and joking with them. Vijay Kumar became very restless. Abandoning fear and consideration of formalities, he ran at full speed in that direction, not even aware of his body and mind. However, after going just a short distance, he fainted and fell to the ground unconscious. A gentle breeze began to serve him, and after a short time he regained his external senses. He looked in all directions, but the vision was nowhere to be seen. After some time he returned to his dwelling, grief-stricken, and lay down on his bed without saying anything to anyone. He was grief-stricken because he'd had a darshan, and the darshan had disappeared. And the height of the astonishment and the mood of union with Radha and Krishna, in contrast to the devastating separation, is really manifested after that happens. It's like Raghunath Das. when he would be in serving directly Sri Radhika, and then he would be in Antardesh, and then he would come out of that, and that Spurti would have disappeared, and Raghunath Das became so distraught, rolling on the bank of Radhakund, weeping and weeping. So Vijay Kumar is in another mood like that also, grief-stricken, and lay down in his bed without saying anything to anyone. Vijay was exceedingly delighted by the Spurti of Braj Leela. In his heart, he thought, tomorrow at the lotus feet of Sri Gurudev, I will submit a description of the confidential mystery that I have seen tonight. However, the next moment, he recalled that one should not tell others. If by great fortune one happens to see the confidential apricot Leela, reflecting like this, he gradually fell asleep. Very important point. So important. If you have any sort of darshan and you want to bring that darshan into the material realm by sharing it with anybody, the description, it will just reduce the impact of the benefit of seeing that. The next day, after honouring Prasad, he went to the house of Kashi Mishra. Kashi Mishra is, of course, the Gambhira. Offered his sastang pranam to his Gurudev and sat before him. Shri Gurudev embraced him affectionately and inquired about his well-being. Vijay Kumar was very happy to see his Gurudev. Composing himself, he said, Prabhu, by your unlimited grace, my human life has become successful. Now I long to know some confidential tattles in regard to Sri Ujjvala Ras. I've been reading Ujjvala Nilamani, and there are certain parts whose purport I cannot comprehend. May I ask you some questions about it? Goswami, Vijay, you are my beloved disciple. You are quite welcome to ask whatever questions you wish to, and I will try to answer them as far as I can. Vijay, Prabhu, of the Mukhya Rasas, Madhurya Ras has been called the rasa which gives rise to an abundance of mysteries. And why not, since the qualities of the other four rasas, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya and Vatsalya, are eternally present in Madhurya Ras. Whatever astonishing and wonderful qualities they lack are perfectly and beautifully established in Madhurya Ras. Consequently, Madhurya Ras is without any doubt superior to all others. Madhurya Ras is quite inappropriate for those who take shelter of the path of impersonal renunciation, because their hearts are dry. At the same time, those who are attracted to mundane sense gratification also find Madhurya Ras difficult to understand, because it is exactly the opposite of mundane nature. Completely the opposite. The Madhurya Ras of Braj is not easy to attain, because it is completely different from Sringara Ras. I'll read again. The Madhurya Ras of Braj is not easy to attain, because it is completely different from Sringara Ras within the material world. So why does the apricot Madhurya Ras appear just like the despicable mundane Ras between men and women in the material existence? Beautiful question. Beautiful question. Simple question to understand. Goswami, Vijay, you know well that all the varieties of the mundane sphere are a reflection of the varieties in the transcendental sphere, and the material world itself is also the reflection of the spiritual world. There is a profound secret in this, namely that the nature of the reflected experience is naturally reversed. Whatever is most exalted in the original existence or form becomes most abominable in the reflection, and whatever is lowest in the original form is seen as highest in its reflected existence. Every part and limb of a body appears in a reversed form in its reflection in a mirror. Similarly, the Paramavastu, supreme transcendental reality, is reflected by the influence of his own inconceivable Shakti. The shadow of that Shakti has expanded itself in full detail in the form of mundane existence. So this is a total reflection. A reflection is a perverted nature of the original. That's what it said. When you look in the mirror, you see everything is round the other way, even though it appears to be the same. The shadow of that Shakti has expanded itself in full detail in the form of mundane existence. Consequently, all the characteristics of the Paramavastu appear in their reversed form in the material existence. Transcendental Ras, which is the very nature of Paramavastu, is reflected in this insentient material world as an abominable mundane Ras. This Parakya subject matter, this relationship between other men's wives, is the most abominable in this world, whereas in the highest conception, Parakya is the topmost. The astonishing, matchless, variegated happiness in the Paramavastu is its own innate Ras, and when it is reflected in the inert plane, the conditioned jiva imagines that this principle has material designations and attributes, because we don't know beyond our material experience. So we try to overlay our material experience into the transcendental realities. And this is a fault. This is why the quality of humility must be very much in the sadhak's heart, to appreciate he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything beyond this limited material world of past, present and future. He doesn't know the nature of the eternal transcendental reality. So in that very submissive, humble mood, then that reality of the transcendental world can descend into the, first of all is described, the mental faculty, the Sangvit Shakti, and then it will come into the heart, mixing with the Hladini Shakti. But it's a descending process, this Avaroha Panta. So the sadhak has to be extremely humble in regard to his material acquisitions, material abilities, etc., education, everything. If he thinks he's very clever and knows so many things, he can never move forward. It's not possible to move forward. Srila Bhakti Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj used to say many times that material qualifications are an impediment, actually, for spiritual, this type of spiritual advancement, not the type of Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. You might be able to use those in the material world to let people think what a great virtuous saint you are. But this has nothing to do with that. This is beyond anything pertaining to this material world whatsoever. It's a whole nother quantum of consciousness. Completely. The conditioned jiva imagines that this principle has material designations and attributes. He then decides that the spiritual substance is only formless and featureless, nirvishesh, and imagines that, since variety is absent in the nirvishesh tattva, all kinds of variety must be essentially mundane. Understand? It's the bewilderment of the jiva that he often goes into. Consequently, he cannot comprehend the eternal nature of transcendental existence, which is free from all material attributes, because it is totally beyond them. It is called achintya. Without this achintya bhav, we cannot move forward. This is the inevitable result of using logic to try to understand the truth. Even we make a conscious effort not to use logic, still our condition is to apply our material intelligence constantly. We've just been reading through these other chapters about the compatible and incompatible rasas. They're very complex indeed. And if we're trying to use our material intelligence to understand, we'll just get exhausted. They're not for understanding of the intelligence. They're for appreciating in the heart of the different relationships between the transcendental personalities who are on that bhav platform, on that rati platform, or on that transcendental platform, depending on the different gradations. Actually, The Paramavastu is full of astonishing varieties because it is the embodiment of all. We've just read the same thing. I'm going to reiterate today. The Mayavad thinks that Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time, such as birth and death, and considers that he is not transcendental. We are Mayavads if we think that. Thus, he rejects Sri Bhagavan's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics. Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesha Brahma. We just read exactly the same thing today. Since spiritual varieties are reflected in mundane ras, one can take help from the varieties of mundane ras to infer the existence and qualities of the spiritual ras that is beyond one's sense perception. The varieties of ras in the Paramavastu are as follows. In the spiritual world, the Shantadam that embodies Shantaras is in the lowest position. Above this is Dasyaras, and above that Sakyaras, and above Sakyaras is Vatsalyaras, and Madhuryaras reigns splendidly above all. In the material world, everything is in the reversed order, so Madhuryaras is on the lowest level, that means the abominable level, condemned practically. Vatsalya is above it, Sakya is above Vatsalya, and Shantaras is highest of all. What does moksha mean? Moksha mostly focuses on being peaceful, being in Shantaras, being happy in this material world, being Shanti. And that in the spiritual world is the lowest. The position and activities of the reflection of Madhurya Ras in the mundane world are extremely petty and shameful. Consequently, people who deliberate on Ras Tattva from the mundane perspective conclude that Madhurya Ras is wretched and contemptible. So logicians and so on, they condemn the beautiful pastimes between Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan because they can only apply their logic and rationale to it. I've heard it directly myself from educated material people, and they just condemn, oh, Krishna, he's that person who has so many milkmaids in Vrindavan. They have no idea. And they condemn it. Conclude that Madhurya Ras is wretched and condemned. Actually, in the spiritual world, it is completely pure, immaculate, and full of astonishing sweetness. There, the meeting of Krishna with his various types of Shakti as Purush Prakriti is completely pure and the origin of all truth. I can just read to the end here. In the material world, the mundane behavior between men and women is indeed shameful. However, there is no transgression of Dharma in the spiritual world because Krishna is the only Purush, and all the Chittattvas in this ras are Prakriti. In the material world, one jiva becomes the enjoyer, and another jiva becomes the enjoyed, and they want to relate with each other in that way. This is mundane. This affair becomes abhorrent and shameful because it is completely opposed to the fundamental tattva. We're not looking for pleasure in this material world. In tattva, one jiva is not the enjoyer of another jiva. On the contrary, Sri Krishna is the only enjoyer, and all jivas are to be enjoyed by him. You see, this is where we need to meditate strongly, to understand this deeply. Actually, there is no doubt that this state of affairs is utterly shameful and despicable. From the perspective of reality and its reflection, it is inevitable that the behavior of mundane men and women will appear to be identical to Krishna's immaculate pastimes, even though one is thoroughly base and the other is supremely valuable and meaningful. What a beautiful answer. But we really probably need to read it 2 or 3 or 4 or 100 times again, just to appreciate the depth of this answer to this very beautiful question. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow with more of this same chapter. Jai Vedana ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Go Premanandi. So now we're coming back to our chapter 31, and we've just heard the answer to this beautiful question that Brajanath, or Vijay, sorry, Brajanath has been left behind now. So now it's only Vijay Kumar, the older of the two, is staying with this quest, we can say, or desire for full-blown Madhurya Ras. And this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur will offer in the rest of these 11 chapters we have left. So he asked about the distinction between the mundane affairs of people attracted to sense gratification in this world and the exalted nature of the transcendental affairs that we hear described in the 10th canto, for example, because they appear to be very similar. So Babaji Gopal Guru gave such a beautiful answer describing this, that he talked about the reflection from the transcendental world into this world comes as a perverted reflection from this world when we look to the transcendental world. Everything is focused on I, me, mine. We said the other day how bondage is defined by the phrase mine, and liberation is defined by the phrase not mine. And both of these are material because it's having that perverted reflection from the transcendental reality. So the transcendental reality is that place to appreciate as being the supreme and to leave the precepts of this dull material world behind. So this is where Gopal Guru is carrying Vijay now. He's saying that of all the Chit Tattvas, I'll just read this one sentence here. However, there is no transgression of Dharma in the spiritual world because Krishna is the only Purush, and all the Chit Tattvas in this ras are Prakrita. They're all completely transcendental, nothing to do with this material world at all. So this is just a distorted vision from this world looking up. And we know that our process of receiving this knowledge is to bow the head in humility and receive the avaroha, the descending stream of influence from that transcendental world, poured through the medium of Guru and the Vaishnavas and Shastra to elevate us for the vision of the reality of that transcendental world, which will carry us out of the illusory, Mayic world that we have been bound in since, at least since this birth, what to speak of many other births previously. So these impressions are so deep that we are trying to purify. Now, just by hearing patiently these descriptions, I'm convinced that some coating will come in the heart of a greed or an enthusiasm to hear more about these topics. These topics are not generally spoken about so much in general assemblies. These topics are not for general assemblies. These topics are for the contemplative sadhak who seriously wants to engage in bhajan. And that personality here is Vijay Kumar. And we'll see right at the very end how he's just engaged in one-pointed bhajan. But all of our philosophy is pointing on, please, to engage in this. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has written that beautiful description in the beginning of Bhajan Rahasya, the difference between archan and bhajan. Archan is performed with our gross bodily senses and our intelligence. It's a demonstration of our worship of the Lord externally. But bhajan is that place of an internal contemplation, connecting with the potency coming from, initially, the holy name of the Lord. The holy name of the Lord contains everything. And Mahaprabhu has given this gift, he's granted this gift At the same time, he's granted this gift of opportunity for the jiva in this Kali Yuga to attain the highest possible gift conceivable, which is Manjari Bhav. And this gift is not going to be available for such a length of time. So we should appreciate that in the sense that the urgency should be there to capitalize on this opportunity. So now I'm going to start reading. Yes, this is what I was going to say, that we should just patiently listen without breaking our intelligence and so on to try to understand everything. Of course, there has to be cognition there to some degree, but the ultimate truth of these descriptions will come to us in the form of mercy by our Guru at a specific time when we're fully ready for that. So now halfway down page 641, Vijay is going to ask another question now. Prabhu, now that I have heard this unprecedented Siddhanta and conception, my purpose has been accomplished. My self-evident conviction has now become firm, and all my doubts are dispelled. This is the interaction between Guru and disciple. All his doubts will be dispelled, just like Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra initially wanted to take to the renounced order when his dharma was actually that of a Kshatriya. But when he heard Krishna's teachings, he said, now all my doubts have been dispelled. I am completely submissive to whichever direction you want me to do, whatever you want me to do. I have now understood the position of Madhurya Ras within the spiritual world. Yes, it's so much more than the mundane Ras in this world. There was some crossover there that Vijay was voicing. Crossover in the sense that these mundane, descriptions of Madhurya Rasa appear to be like mundane rasa of this world. But this had to be completely dispelled by Gopal Guru in that previous answer, which is very beautiful. Okay, I have now understood the position of Madhurya Ras within the spiritual world. Aho, just as the very word Madhurya Ras means sweet, its transcendental bhav also gives rise to supreme bliss, Paramananda. Who is so unfortunate as one who finds satisfaction in Shantaras, when there is a ras such as Madhurya Ras? Yes, we were discussing about the reflection, and in the reflection, what is at the bottom in the transcendental world appears to be at the top in this world, which is Shantaras. Prabhu, I wish to hear the elaborate and full explanation of the philosophy and principles of the confidential Madhurya Ras. Goswami, listen, Baba. Krishna is the Vishaya of Madhurya Ras. His dearly beloved gopis are the Ashraya, and both together are the Alamban of this Ras. So now we understand these terminologies. The Vibhav, this is the cause. And in the Vibhav, there's the Alamban, which constitutes the Vishaya, and the Ashraya, and also the Udipan are within the Vibhav. So we've already discussed that. Vijay, what is the beautiful form of Krishna as the Vishaya of this Ras? This is the Udipan now. Aho, Goswami, aho, what a sweet question. Krishna's complexion is the hue of a monsoon cloud. He is charming and sweet, and he has all auspicious bodily characteristics. He is a strong, budding youth, and an eloquent and endearing speaker. He is intelligent, splendid, sober, skillful, clever, happy, grateful, sincere, and he is controlled by love. He is profound. This is the love of the gopis. Ultimately, this Samartha-rati. This Samartha-rati has the potency to control Krishna. The Samanjasa-rati of the queens of Dwarka can't control Krishna. When Satyabhama becomes angry. Krishna just stands in the doorway of the palace and tells the servant just to tell Satyabhama that I'm here. Come out of the angry room, dress yourself nicely, and come and meet me. I'm at the door. He doesn't have to bring his flute or his peacock feather into Dwarka. So this Samanjasarati, because it's divided, the queens have 10 sons, 1 daughter. That makes Krishna gets a 12th of their attraction. Their love is described up to the stage of Anurag. This is in Samanjasarati, but the Samartharati that is controlling Krishna, has the power to control Krishna, is held in the hearts of the Brajaramanis. He is profound, super excellent, and famous. He steals the hearts of young damsels, and he is ever fresh. He enjoys incomparable pastimes. He is exquisitely beautiful, and he is the most dearly beloved who plays upon his vamsi. Krishna is the only person who has these qualities. The beauty of his 2 lotus feet has crushed to dust Kandarpa's pride. His sidelong glance enchants the hearts of all, and he is the treasury of playful pastimes. Remember, this is the characteristic of the dear Lalit, because again these references will be brought up. We're trying to appreciate all the vocabulary now. Vijay, I have fully realized that Sri Krishna, with his apricot form and qualities, is the only Nayak of the supremely wonderful, transcendental Madhurya Ras. Previously, I studied various shastras, and I used logic and reasoning to meditate on the form of Krishna. But my faith in his form did not become firmly established. However, through your mercy, bhakti based on ruchi has arisen within my heart by the mercy of Guru, this Avaroha Panta. Since my heart has been purified by devotion, I am continuously experiencing the spurti of Krishna there day and night. Even though I leave Krishna, Krishna does not leave my heart. Aho, how merciful he is. Now I really understand. Sarvataiva duro yam abhaktiye bhagavat rasaha tat badambuja sarvasai bhaktiya evan rasyate vyatitya bhavana vartma yas chamatkara barabu kridi satvojvala badam swadate sa raso mataha. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 25131 to 132. Remember that Vijay now has been reading the Ujjvala Nilmani, so he's broadening his whole appreciation of the nature of this Madhurya Ras. The translation of that verse: only the Shuddha Bhaktas who accept Sri Krishna's lotus feet as their all in all can experience this Bhagavat Ras. One can never experience this ras or realize it if his heart does not have the slightest scent of bhakti, devotion to the Lord. If he is full of mundane sentiments, or if his sanskars have molded his nature so that he is addicted to logic. Interesting. Logic means always, I should know what's going on. I don't have this chamatkar that's mentioned in this verse, this astonishment, this ability to be astonished. The more we are astonished by these topics, that would indicate the melting of the heart. The less that astonishment arises, indicates the presence of logic and rationale. Prabhu, I have realized that rasa is the supremely pure and wondrous bhav that arises in the heart when it is illuminated by Shuddha Sattva, and that it transcends the limit of a human being's power of contemplation, beyond thought, in other words, beyond the mind. Rasa is the entity of the spiritual world, and it is absent in the mundane world. Don't try to bring the spiritual reality into the mundane world. There's no need for that. Don't try. That's what I said at the beginning. These subjects are not for general assemblies, not at all. I am broadcasting here because I have the desire, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mercy, just to complete this Jaiva Dharma and to present it to the public for their contemplation. Also, because my Gurudev has, in his own life, tried so hard to offer this gift of Mahaprabhu to the whole world. This was previously not given, and it was very much confidentially kept covered. But my Gurudev opened that. So I am not opening it, I'm simply reading about it for our own opening individually. It manifests upon the pure existence, Sata, of the Jiva, who is by nature an atomic particle of consciousness, Chit Kana. This rasa is experienced in the state of Bhakti Samadhi. One who has Sri Gurudev's mercy and can discriminate between Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, and Mishra Sattva, mixed goodness, will have no doubt about this at all. So all of this is Vijay's response to Gopal Guru. He's speaking to Gopal Guru Goswami. This is all Vijay's appreciation. Now Goswami will speak. Goswami, what you have said is absolutely true. Now I will ask you a question to dispel many of your doubts. Simply by answering it, you will realize a transcendental tattva. Tell me, what is the difference between Shuddha Sattva and Mishra Sattva? This is very, very beautiful. And we can send it to you afterwards in our WhatsApp thread. We have a document with this typed out separately because it's so potent. Vijay Kumar offered Sastang Dandavat Pranams at Sri Gurudev's feet and said humbly, Prabhu, by your mercy, I will explain it to the best of my ability. Now this is always very important. Don't ever begin any sort of pravachan or any sort of speaking on Shastra without offering full pranam to all our Guru Vag to invoke their mercy. Every day before we chant the whole Guru Vandana, begging for their potent mercy to reveal something of the light within this scripture. Prabhu, by your mercy, I will explain it to the best of my ability. Please correct me if I make any mistake. My Gurudev would do this all the time. He would make everyone stand up and speak on these different topics for their own purification, and so that my Gurudev could understand where is this person at, what is his thinking, is he correct in his understanding of Tattva and Siddhanta. He would make us speak regularly in front of him and correct us, sometimes very strongly. That which has existence is called Sata. I have to listen very carefully here. Try and grasp this because it's very, very beautiful. That which has existence is called Sata, and a substance that has an actual position, form, quality, and activity can be called Sattva. So it's coming from the same root. Shuddha Sattva is Sattva that has no beginning or end, and whose form is eternally new. This is Shuddha Sattva. It is not contaminated by divisions of past and future time, and it always remains thoroughly astonishing. In other words, it's completely spiritual, this Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva includes all aspects of existence that are products of the pure spiritual energy, Shuddha Chit Shakti. So we've already been through the Chit Shakti in chapter 14 also. In Maya, which is the shadow of the Chit Shakti, there is transformation of time as past and future. All aspects of existence in this Maya contain the Rajadam, function of the mode of passion of Maya, for they have a beginning. Everything that has a beginning and the end, this is material here. They also contain the Tamagun, function of the mode of ignorance, for they have an end. Shivji is the Deva for the Tamagun. Brahma is Deva for the Rajagun, the creation. Mishra Sattva refers to aspects of Mayic Sattva that have a beginning and an end. Mishra means mixed. There's some mix in here. It's not transcendental. Shuddha means pure. Mishra means mixed. This word Mishra, we have Gyan Mishra Bhakti, Karma Mishra Bhakti, etc. Different times we understand this Mishra. Now, the pure Jiva is Shuddha Sattva, and his form, qualities, and activities are also composed of Shuddha Sattva. However, since the Shuddha Jiva was conditioned, the two qualities of Maya, Rajagun and Tamagun, have become mixed with his pure Sattva. Therefore, the conditioned Jiva is called Mishra Sattva, mixed existence or mixed goodness. Understand? Goswami, Baba, you have presented an extremely subtle Siddhanta. Now tell me, how is the heart of the Jiva illuminated by Shuddha Sattva? Vijay. Yes, how is that? What is the process for that illumination of Shuddha Sattva into the darkness of the Jiva's conditioned heart? Vijay, the Shuddha Sattva, pure existence of the Jiva, does not manifest clearly as long as he remains conditioned in the material world. Condition means that I am afraid of so many things in life because I'm attached to my body. Isn't this fear a very strong feeling that so many have? Fear of going hungry, fear of not being loved, fear of someone robbing me or killing me, etc. This fear is apparent very strongly in the world, but the devotee, certainly one aspiring for Shuddha Sattva, won't come near this place. He knows that Rake Krishna Mareke, Mare Krishna Rakeke, everything is in the hand of Krishna. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Janapi Aprasite. Krishna will provide whatever I don't have, and he will protect what I do have. And if he wants to take something away, I just see that as a support for my bhakti, whichever condition he wants to put me in, just like Prahlad. He realizes his Swarup to the extent that this Shuddha Sattva arises, but he cannot attain this result by any sadhan of karma or gyan. It's not up to sadhan. The reason is as follows. No bodily impurity can be eradicated by another substance that is itself impure. In my book I've underlined this sentence. I'll read it again. No bodily impurity can be eradicated by another substance that is itself impure. Doesn't make sense, does it? You can't purify yourself if the tools that you're using to purify yourself are impure. In other words, the impure mind, it needs to have the connection with that pure mind, and then we can cure, then we can purify the impure heart. I'll read it again. No bodily impurity can be eradicated by another substance that is itself impure. Mundane karma is impure by nature, so how can it remove the contamination of mayic impurity on the jiva? As for Gyan, it is like fire, for it burns the impurity and at the same time obliterates the fundamental sattva existence along with it. That always reminds me of this chemotherapy they talk about. Yes, it might kill the cancerous bacteria, but it also kills everything else in its way at the same time, so it defeats its own purpose in the end. How can this give rise to the happiness that comes from having cleansed the impurity? Thus, Shuddha Sattva can only appear through bhakti, which arises by the mercy of Krishna and the Vaishnavas. When Bhakti appears, Shuddha Sattva illuminates the heart. Very, very beautiful. So Vijay has been asked to speak this directly at this particular point to bring us to a more grave condition, a sober condition, so that we can go forward in this chapter describing Madhurya Ras. Goswami, it is the pleasure to give instructions to a person as qualified as you. Now, what else do you wish to inquire about? Vijay, you have already explained that there are 4 types of Nyayak: Dhiradatta, Dhirlalit, Dhirashanta, and Dhiradatta. Which one of these is Krishna? Goswami, all of these 4 types of heroic characteristics are present in Krishna. The mutually contradictory bhavs that are seen in these 4 types of Nayak are all present in Nayak Krishna through his Achintya Shakti, and he has the Shakti to maintain all the rasas at once. Krishna is the embodiment of all the rasas, all 12 rasas, the Gona rasas, the Mukhya rasas, all simultaneously. These bhavs act according to Krishna's desire. Krishna, who is endowed with the characteristics of all 4 types of Nyayak, also has another fascinating and secret peculiarity, which only extraordinarily qualified persons are eligible to know. Vijay, since you have already bestowed your great mercy upon me, kindly tell me this tattva also. Vijay Kumar's eyes filled with tears as he said this, and he fell at Goswamiji's feet. Goswami lifted him up and embraced him. His own eyes also filled with tears, as he said in a voice choked with emotion, Baba, the confidential mystery is that in Madhurya Ras, Krishna is 2 distinct types of Nyayak. He is husband, Pati, and Paramor, Upapati, as well. So this is the secret. He is Pati and Upapati. He's both. Vijay, Prabhu, Krishna is our eternal Pati, husband. He should only be called Pati. So why is there the relationship of Upapati? This is the very esoteric Parakya Ras that Mahaprabhu specifically has come to give, that now is going to be spoken about. Goswami, this is a profound mystery. Spiritual affairs are like mysterious jewels, but among them, Parakya Madhurya Ras is like the Kaustubha money. Vijay, bhaktas who have taken shelter of Madhurya Ras engage in bhajan with the bhav that Krishna is their pati, their husband. What is the deep import of considering Krishna one's upapati? Paramon. Goswami, no ras whatsoever appears if one conceives of Paratattva as impersonal and worships it in an impersonal mood, Nirvishesh Brahma. This process denies the validity of Vedic statements such as Raso Vaisaha, that supreme absolute truth is the personification of all rasa. So Parakya Rasa is a ras. So it would deny the existence of that in the Lord if someone wasn't acknowledging it. Chandogya Upanishad 8.13.1. Nirvishesh Bhav is useless because of its severe lack of happiness. However, from another angle of vision, the experience of ras can develop progressively in accordance with the variety of Savishesh Bhav. Sa, this prefix of sa as opposed to nir. Nir means without. Vishesh means form or dress. Nir Vishesh, no, it's impersonal. Sa Vishesh is that personal description. Sa Vishesh. Progressively in accordance with the variety of Savishesh Bhav. You should understand that ras is the primary tattva of the Paratattva. The Savishesh Bhav is called Ishvara Bhav, in which one relates to the Supreme as controller, is somewhat superior to Nirvishesh Bhav, and the Prabhu Bhav of Dasya Ras is higher than the Ishvara Bhav of Shanta Ras. Sakya Bhav is more elevated than Dasya Ras, and Vatsalya Bhav is still more superior, and Madhurya Ras is the topmost of all. Just as there is a sequence among the Bhavs, each being better than the previous one, similarly, Parakya Madhurya Ras is superior to Swakya. So that's a beautiful step-by-step gradation, leading ultimately to Parakya Ras. Para means other. Swa means own, husband. Pati. Swakya, when you marry, you look at your wife and you say, you're mine forever. She looks at the husband, you're mine forever. There's this ownership. Swa. But para is other. There are two tattvas, Atma, one's own, and para, others as ashraya. The natural tendency to be fixed in the self, Atmanishta Dharma, is called Atmaramata, the satisfaction of being situated in the self. And in this Atmaramata, Ras has no assistance from any separate entity. Beautiful description. Krishna has this quality of being eternally self-satisfied. However, at the same time, the quality of enjoying with the assistance of others, Pararamata Dham, also exists in him. So Krishna is fully Atmaram, but he also has this desire, this Pararamata Dham, desire to enjoy with others. Eternally. The aggregate of contradictory characteristics is present together simultaneously in Parama Purush Sri Krishna. This is the intrinsic and constitutional nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Paratattva. In one aspect, the Krishna Leela there is Atmaramata, while in its counterpart, the quintessence of Paramata reigns splendidly to its fullest extent. So we have Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but then we have Krishna who is depending on the love of his beloveds and relishing this Parakya Ras. We know the story that in Braj, everybody wanted Radha and Krishna to be married. But Yogamaya, Purnamasi Dev, she arranges for them not to be married because she understands the very heart of this Parakya Ras is going to be more relishable than Swakya Ras. So there's a pastime in Nandagaon when Radharani is cooking for Krishna because she has the benediction from Durvasa Rishi. Mother Yashoda coaches her into the kitchen, and during that very loving exchange between Yashoda Ma and Radharani, just in a blissful moment, Mother Yashoda puts haldi, turmeric, on the palms of Sri Radhika. And this immediately means one who is betrothed. That's the meaning, that's the symbol of it. So Radharani becomes very shy and embarrassed by that. And very quickly she leaves the kitchens of Mother Yashoda and she wants to go home to Varshana. She's not married yet. She wants to go back to Kirtida and Rishabhanu Maharaj. And on her way home, she stops at one kund and she tries to wash the haldi, the turmeric, off her hands. And the whole pond becomes yellow. This is called Pili Puka. We go there every year on our pastimes. And some little children, they're watching, they're seeing what she's doing. Oh, why has Radharani got turmeric on her hands for a start? Oh, Mother Yashoda must have made an overture of marriage for her darling son Krishna. This is what all the Brijabasis had in their minds. This is what they all wanted. They all wanted this Swakya Bhav to manifest. But then when Radharani comes into the village, the children have run up to Rishabhanu Maharaj and Kirtidar, and they've said everything to them. They said, oh, Mother Yashoda, she's made a proposition that Radharani will marry Krishna. And Kirtidar and Rishabhanu Maharaj are so overjoyed with this, they immediately send them a basket of beautiful jewels and fine cloths, etc., in a symbol of acceptance of this proposition that they believe that Mother Yashoda has made to Srimati Radhika. And Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba, when they receive this, they think that, oh, Kirtidar and Rishabhanu Maharaj, they're making this offering because they want our son to marry their daughter. This is what they're thinking at this point. So they immediately take those jewels out of the basket and again put other beautiful jewels in the basket and send it back with that messenger in a form of confirmation. Yes, we agree that my son Krishna should be married to your daughter Radhika. So Rishabhanu and Kirtidar, they become overjoyed, and the whole of Braj becomes overjoyed. Yes, Radha and Krishna, the darlings of Vrindavan, are going to be married. This brings the greatest joy to the Brijvasis. But then suddenly Purnamasi comes into the village and asks, what's all the joyful festivity about? And they all explain to her, haven't you heard? Radha and Krishna are going to be married. Purnamasi immediately says, that's wonderful. That is so wonderful. First of all, we have to do their astrological chart. This must be there before we can confirm the compatibility of these two, even though these two are so compatible. So she sits in the dust and clears a place. Everyone gathers around her, and she starts going through the 12 houses. And in the first house, everything is splendid. Everything is totally positive, that if these two marry, there'll be great auspiciousness everywhere. And she goes through all the houses, and she finally comes to the 12th house. And then she goes very, very silent. And everyone's crowding around. What do you see? What do you see? Why have you gone so silent? And then Purnamasi, she proclaims that it's saying in this 12th house that even though these two are the most compatible souls in existence, but if they marry, then one of them must die. So that's life and death. So that's the most serious, grave statement that anyone can make. So immediately all of the Brijavasis are totally flattened and disheartened that the two darlings of Braj are not going to be married, because Purnamasi wants to orchestrate through Purnamasi. Yogamaya is ultimately manifesting from Sri Radhika. Everything is for Krishna's pleasure. So Purnamasi is directing this play act, so to speak, or this drama within Braj. And then a few weeks later, Purnamasi declares that Radharani should actually marry Abhimanyu. Oh, this breaks all their hearts. Abhimanyu, the son of Jyotila, sister of Kotila, the most practically envious people in all of Braj, always complaining, always got a problem. Nevertheless, this marriage takes place for Leela, so that Krishna and Radha can have this para Kiya Ras. This is the nature of this Parakiya Ras. So, we're reading here that Krishna has both of these rasas within him. He has the Pati and the Upapati. The summit of this Paramata is Parakiya Bhav. Parakiya Ras is the astonishing rasa that appears when the Nayak and Nayika are united by rag, by attraction, not by social convention or formality, not by matrimonial ties, but simply by attraction. United by rag, attraction, even though the relationship between them is parabhav, bhav of accepting para, another's consort. Very beautiful description of Parakiya here. Very exemplary. From Atmaramata to Parakiya Madhurya Ras is the full spectrum of rasa. As rasa is drawn in the direction of Atmaramata, it gradually becomes dry, whereas to the extent that it is drawn towards Parakya, it attains its fully blossomed state. When Krishna is the Nayak, and Parakya Ras can never be disgraceful, whereas if any ordinary jiva becomes the Nayak, the consideration of Dharma and Adharma arises. It's completely abhorrent to engage in this in the mundane world. But Krishna is totally transcendental to all mundanity. So he, like fire, can never be contaminated with any type of sin. You can put dead bodies in fire, it doesn't contaminate fire. And Parakya Bhav then I'll read that again. When Krishna is the Nayak, Parakya Ras can never be disgraceful, whereas if an ordinary jiva becomes the Nayak, the consideration of Dharma and Adharma arises, and Parakya Bhav then becomes extremely base. So this is just on the, just coming after the explanation that we read yesterday about this world being the reflected perversion of that world. In that world, Parakya reigns supreme. In this world, it's the most abominable and base. So see the distinctions here. See how these pages are all linking together to give us a clear picture. Thus, poets have determined that the meeting between a male paramour and a married woman is utterly contemptible. However, Rupa Goswami has said that although Alanka Shastra has described the Upapati as detestable and contemptible, this only applies to a mundane, Prakrita Nayak. Yes, in the mundane world. No such conclusion can apply to Sri Krishna, who is directly the transcendental source of all avatars. Because we remember in the Bhagavatam at the end of the 33rd chapter, just at the conclusion of the Rasa Leela section, Parikshit, he asked this question: how could Krishna be so audacious as to dance with other men's wives and transgress Dharma? And Shukadeva explains very beautifully. He explains this analogy I just said about fire in particular. Fire can never be contaminated. Krishna can never be contaminated. But understand why this Parakya Ras is there, because the attraction is heightened by the necessity of secrecy, by the clandestine arrangements that have to be made, all the drama and dramatic meetings that go on, and how they have to be so confidential between each other. So many things. How this Parakya Ras is the most supreme and relishable for the divine couple, not for conditioned jivas to even imagine that. This has to be clarified, because conditioned jivas will try and take this and make it derogatory. They'll try and take this, or they have taken it already, and try and demean the beauty of these transcendental relationships. So this has been explained very clearly here. Vijay, kindly tell me about the distinct characteristic of pati. So I think I'll stop here today, and we'll go on with this subject matter tomorrow. By the way, in Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he describes, there's a beautiful essay called I can't quite remember the name of the essay, but it's about the need from the Srimad Bhagavatam to understand that the highest conception is Parakya Ras. Something about, I'll post the title, I'll post the essay afterwards, and we can read that, going through the different stages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I think I'll talk more about this subject tomorrow. because the Bhagavatam is where this is described. This is our praman, it's from the Bhagavatam, from the 10th canto, from the Rasa Panchadiya, raising the divine temple. That's the name of the essay by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, raising the divine temple. And that divine temple consists of Parakiya Ras. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is urgently requesting the people of this world who read the Srimad Bhagavatam to please write about this Parakiya Ras, to bring it more into the forefront of the conditioned souls, because this is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared, to give service to this in the form ultimately of this Manjari Bhav. But if people don't know about it, and if they're inhibited and frightened by it, and considering it's adharmic, etc., then they won't, respectable people won't go near it, they'll just condemn it. So this has to be very, very deeply understood so that it can be presented in a formal, beautiful way, just as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati presents it himself. So tomorrow we'll discuss more of this. So Jai Vedama Ki Jai, chapter 31 Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Go Premanandi. This essay, Raising the Divine Temple, is on my website. Many of these tattvas and siddhantas are there on my website. There's all kinds of rasa, tattva, documents, etc. that support our reading fully. Different types of gopis, different nayaks, etc. All of this is there. Much extra backup information, because this is a vast, vast topic. If we choose to become immersed in this topic, this can completely consume us in its extraordinary, astonishing sweetness and relish. So we need to have a lot of reading material to educate ourselves into these topics, and there is an abundance, such an abundance. Besides the Ujjvala Nilamani and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there is so much. So this particular essay of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati supports entirely this idea of Parakiya Ras. So this was the greatest gift, practically, that Mahaprabhu came to give this in this world, to make it respectable. Mahaprabhu himself is the most respectable personality. He would never even look or speak with another woman outside of his two wives, Vishnu Priya, Lalita Priya. So many instances, and in the dealings with Chota Haridas, expelled him from his company just for looking, glancing at the niece, young niece of an old lady. So he would not tolerate any transgression of this sort. Yet he was the embodiment of this Parakiya Ras, to present it in the world. Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Vakreshwara Pandit Ki Jai, Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhaveva Patitanam Bhavibhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. In our Rasa Tattva study, we're hearing the step-by-step process of arriving at that place of Amol Prem Seva. And hearing all these subject matters, some of you may be finding it a little difficult just to be patient, just hearing it. But I can remember one story that my Gurudev said many times about Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, that there was a devotee and he was very sick. His digestion was completely messed up totally, and he couldn't even drink water without passing it out. So they took him to an expert Ayurvedic doctor in Calcutta, and he advised them, you give him a spoonful of ghee every day. And the devotees were shocked. They said, he can't even digest water. How can he digest ghee? And the doctor said, no problem, let him pass it, let him pass it, let him pass it. Something will stick. Some impression will get there. So I'm remembering this in relationship to all the different discussions we're having about Rasa Tattva. So they're esoteric subject matters, and they're not always easy to grasp, but something will be there. Just something will be there. And then eventually, with the Lord's mercy, Guru's mercy, Vaishnava's mercy, Dham's mercy, then Nam's mercy, then all of these little truths that we've heard. Because perhaps when I'm reading through, some things will resonate and other things won't resonate, which means we'll have to go back again and read it through again. Many times we'll have to read it. But whatever does resonate is going to be to our absolute advantage, totally. So yesterday we ended up by discussing about Parakiya, and I explained that pastime about Sri Radhika in Pilipuka, rubbing the haldi off her hands. And I also I raised the topic of Parikshit Maharaj at the end of the 33rd chapter, which is the last chapter in the Rasa Panchadhiya. He questions Shukadev Goswami. Why did Krishna perform such audacious acts as dancing and touching other men's wives? And I gave a little bit answer, but I'll just give in bullet form the 7 principal reasons that Shukadev Goswami mentions. And I said yesterday something of these, but I'll say a little bit more today, because it's such an important topic. We need to have this doubt completely dispelled in our hearts as the sadhaks, and similarly we need to know how to dispel it in others' hearts that we might meet. So the prime example is that fire consumes everything. Krishna is like fire, so there's no sin in fire. And I gave the example yesterday, you can throw a dead body on a fire and no, the fire doesn't become contaminated. So Krishna is like that, he cannot become contaminated. And these pastimes are never ever to be imitated. If we try to imitate these, then that is our absolute downfall. There's an interesting pastime in connection with Sankaracharya when he was traveling through the villages with some of his sannyasis, and a Sudrani, a Sudra woman, approached him with a sweet, and he accepted that sweet, and then he looked at all the other sannyasis and then he popped it into his mouth. And the other sannyasis, he could hear what they were thinking. Oh, we can also accept a sweet offered by a Sudrani. No problem, our Guru Maharaj, he has done that, so we can do that. So they walked a bit further through the village and they came to a blacksmith forge where he was melting lead in a little cup over the fire, the heat. And Sankaracharya, he reaches inside and asks the blacksmith, can I have that, those tongs with the lead cup in it? And he just took that with that melted lead and drank it. And then he offered it to the other sannyasis. So they got the understanding, don't try to imitate. It's the same example as Shivji drinking the poison from the churning of the ocean of milk. We are not qualified for that. So we should never imitate at all, not even in our dreams to think of that. And then the Lord's statements are always pure. These 7 points are covered by Shukadev's response. And there's no selfish motive within the Lord's activities. It's completely free from false ego. He is free from false ego. His Shaktis are free. The gopis are free from false ego. And Krishna lives within all hearts. So Krishna is there within the heart of all living entities simultaneously. So how can he be transgressing something by dancing with those wives? And then these human-like pastimes, they will attract the jivas. So we have this very beautiful verse. We often say, Anugrahaya bhaktanam manusyam deha ashrita bhajate tat rishi kritva yashrutva tatparo bhavet. And this is saying that in order to bestow mercy upon the devotees, as well as the conditioned souls, Bhagavan Sri Krishna manifests his human-like form and performs extraordinary pastimes like the Rasa Leela, that anyone who hears about them becomes exclusively devoted to him. So this is why Krishna is performing these beautiful pastimes, to attract the conditioned souls. And then the final reason that Shukadev gives is that Yoga Maya manifested replica gopis to be with their husbands in the village of Braj. So there was no disturbance socially. Everyone thought that everything was going on as normal. So these reasons we should be familiar with so that we can easily purify anyone else's heart, but in particularly ourselves, that we can become totally freed from doubt. Why is Krishna dancing with other men's wives? Because we're just talking about Parakya, Upapati and Parakya Ras. This was the last topic that we discussed yesterday. So we're on to page 647, and we're down towards the bottom. Vijay, kindly tell me about the distinct characteristic of Pati. Pati is the husband. Goswami, a Pati is one who has accepted the hand of a bride in marriage. This means the ritualistic formal marriage. Vijay, please explain the characteristics of Upapati and Parakya. Goswami, the Upapati is a man who is driven by intense attachment to transgress dharma and accept a Parakya as his most dearly beloved. A Parakya is a woman who neglects the dharma of this world and the next, transgresses the regulations of marriage, and completely offers herself to a man other than her husband. There are two types of Parakya, namely unmarried Kanya and married Proda. Vijay, what are the symptoms of Swakya? Goswami, a chaste woman who has been married according to the regulative principles and who is always absorbed in following the orders of her husband is called Swakya. This is marital relationship now. Vijay, who are Swakya and who are Parakya for Sri Krishna? Goswami, the married ladies of Dwarkapuri are Swakya, and the young gopis of Braj are mainly Parakya. Vijay, where are these two types of consort situated in the Apricot Leela? So he's asking about the spiritual world now. Goswami, this is a very confidential matter. You know that the domain of the Paratattva comprises 4 quarters. 3 quarters of his opulences, Vibhuti, are manifest in the spiritual realm, and 1 quarter is in the mundane realm. Thus, the entire realm of Maya, consisting of 14 planetary systems, is situated in 1 quarter of his Vibhuti. The river Viraj lies between the material and spiritual worlds, the world of Maya being situated on this side of it, and the spiritual world on the other. Brahmadam, which is composed of effulgence, surrounds the spiritual world, Chit Jagat, on all sides. Apart from that, when one penetrates beyond the Viraja, the spiritual sky, Paravyom, is seen as Samvyoma Rup, Vaikuntha. There Aishwarya is prominent, and Narayan reigns as the Lord of Lords, attended by unlimited, transcendental, majestic Shaktis. In Vaikuntha, Bhagavan has Swakya Ras, with the Shri, Bur and Nila Shaktis, and the Shri, Bur and Nila Shaktis serve him. These are his three principal Shaktis in Vaikuntha. The Shri is like Lakshmi Devi herself, Bu is that potency of creation, and the Nila Shakti is like his pastime Shakti, or the pastime of destruction. Serve him as Swakiya consorts. Above Vaikuntha lies Golok. In Vrindavan, the Swakiya consorts of the city Pura remain absorbed in their respective appropriate services. In Golok, the young ladies of Braj serve Krishna in their particular ras. Vijay, if Golok is Krishna's highest dham, then why have the wonderful glories of Braj being extolled? Goswami, places such as Braj, Gokul, and Vrindavan are within Sri Mathura Mandal. Mathura Mandal and Golok are non-different from each other, Abhed Tattva. They're all the same. When this one phenomena is situated in the highest region of the Chit Jagat, it is known as Golok. And when it manifested within the material universe, it is known as Mathura Mandal. So this Mathura Mandal is there. We call it Mathura, even though Mathura is actually outside of the conception of Braj itself. And I've explained often how my Gurudev gave the example that if you take the whole of the Braj Mandal and imagine if you're looking at a cluster of stars in the sky, and it looks as if you're looking through a telescope, it looks as if all those stars are the same distance from where you're standing. But actually some of those stars are billions of miles further back, and some are very much closer. But they look initially to be all the same. So this is like Mathura is situated in the middle of Braj Mandal, even though Mathura itself doesn't have the same Parakiya Bhav that Braj has. It's only in Vrindavan that Parakiya Bhav reigns splendidly. And when it is manifested within the material universe, it is known as Mathura Mandal. Thus, it is celebrated simultaneously in these two swarups. Vijay, that means in the Prakat and Aprakat. Vijay, how is that possible? I don't understand. Goswami, such phenomena are possible only by Krishna's Achintya Shakti. All the activities within the jurisdiction of Achintya Shakti are beyond comprehension and argument. They're not to be debated about. That's absurd. That eternal abode of Golok is called Mathura Dham in the Prakat Leela, within the world of gross elements, Prapancha. And this very same place is called Golok in Aprakat Leela. So they're both the same. Krishna's transcendental pastimes are eternal, and Golok is eternally manifest in the Nitya Jagat. Those who have become eligible to have darshan of the pure spiritual substance see Golok. Even if you're in Boma Vrindavan, you see Golok. Not only that, but they can have darshan of Golok in Gokul itself. However, the jiva whose intelligence is material cannot attain the darshan of Golok. If there's any conception of material identity, then that's restricted. Even though Gokul is Golok, jivas with mundane intelligence see Gokul as an ordinary place of this material world consisting of 5 gross elements. For example, when we go to Vrindavan, we see pigs in the gutter, etc., and it looks like it's just a material place. But this is not the reality, ultimately, of the realized soul. He sees it as non-different to Golok, because they are tattvically exactly the same. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us the Siddhanta here, the Tattva. Yes, Yogamaya covers us individually. Yes, it's covered. Vijay, what is the qualification to have the darshan of Golok? Goswami, Shukadev Goswami has said, Iti sanchintya bhagavan mahakarunako vibhu dasyam sa svam lokam dasyasya sa svam lokam gopanam tamasa param satyam jnanam anantam yad brahmajoti sanatanam yaddi pashyanti muneyo guna pape samahita. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:28, 14 to 15. Although the Gopas are eternally perfect, they nonetheless descend to this world as assistants in Krishna's pastimes. The Sadhana Siddha Gopas were the followers of those Nitya Siddha Gopas. These Sadhana Siddha Gopas thought, due to ignorance, the jivas in this world identify themselves with their material bodies. Thus they are hankering with many types of desires, and they engage in various types of work in order to fulfill them. As a result, they wander aimlessly, accepting repeated birth in higher and lower species. We are also engaged in the same activity. So the same activity by these sadhana siddha gopas, the followers in male form, they're doing the same. They're taking the cows out grazing, they're milking them, and they're doing all these apparent material activities. So in humility they are saying like that. They're engaged in the same activity. Considering this, the greatly compassionate Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, who has inconceivable majestic opulence, granted to those Gopas darshan of his Paramadam, Golok, which is beyond the dense darkness of Maya. So yes, that like Yoga Maya or Mahamaya is representing the dense darkness, keeping us restricted. The variety in that Dham is eternal, absolute reality, full of unlimited spiritual pastimes. That Dham is eternally self-illuminated with the effulgence of Brahm, and it is perceived by the hosts of sages and sadhaks through trance in the stage beyond the influence of the three gunas. This is like in Samadhi. Baba, you cannot have darshan of Golok without Krishna's mercy. Krishna bestowed mercy on the Brijbasis and granted them darshan of Golok. So Golok has some Aishwarya, and the Brijbasis went there and they saw Krishna like a very important person and they weren't really impressed. They didn't really like it. This Golok is the excellent transcendental abode beyond material nature, and its variegatedness is the embodiment of eternal truth and endless spiritual pastimes. The spiritual effulgence of the Brahmajyoti exists there eternally as the brilliant radiance, Prabha, of his limbs. When the sadhak is free from all mundane connections with matter, he can have darshan of that special tattva. So this is for our contemplation and meditation. Krishna will grant that vision. Vijay, can all liberated personalities have darshan of Golok? Goswami, even among millions of liberated souls, a bhakta of Bhagavan is very rare. In Brahmadam, the jivas who become liberated by the practice of Astanga Yoga and Brahmagyan enjoy forgetfulness of the self, just as a man in a state of deep sleep, Shushipta, remains completely inactive, being bereft of power to perceive, to understand, to desire, and so forth. Similarly, the jivas who attain Brahmadam are oblivious to their own Atma. Actually, it's like spiritual suicide. They just become like a vegetable practically. There's no activity, no sambandha, that's why. So they remain like inanimate lumps in the Brahmajyoti. What to speak of them? These are the liberated souls, because he's asked the question about liberated personalities. This is moksha. This is the cheating, deceptive path. What to speak of them? Even bhaktas absorbed in Aishwarya cannot see Golok. Those who just desire to go to Vaikuntha. Bhaktas with the mood of Aishwarya render service to an opulent form of the Lord in Vaikuntha according to their respective bhavs. Even one who engages in Krishna bhajan in Braj Ras can only have darshan of Golok if he is so fortunate that Krishna bestows mercy upon him and releases him from the Maya's endless bondage. So it's making a very clear point that this is not a simple darshan. This requires complete dedication and the mercy of Krishna through Guru to take us to this vision.
Srila Siddhartha Maharaj, he said, Krishna, it is not sweet candy you can buy in market. It's very cheap, not cheap. It's very
Nice. He gave the example, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar says, Krishna is not sweet candy that you can just buy in the market. No, it requires dedication and diligence and sadhana, perhaps for a number of lifetimes. As I said in the beginning, we're trying to make some impression here. We're taking this and something will stick. My Gurudev used to say so many times to tell us to have this desire, cultivate this desire of Radha Dasyam. We don't have that desire, we're cultivating it. And perhaps in the next life or the next life, this desire will be, if that desire is there at the time of leaving this world, then so much fortune will be ours. Vijay, well, if only this type of liberated bhakta can see Golok, why has Golok been described in Shastras such as Sri Brahma Samhita, Harivamsa, and Padma Purana? If Krishna's mercy is only available through Braja Bhajan, what was the point of mentioning Golok? Actually, most people don't go for Golok, they go for moksha. Goswami, those Brajarasik Rama Hari Hari, the internet wires are not in our control. They are beyond. It's all achintya that we're even able to do this. This is actually achintya. So we are in the process of describing the gradations of eligibility to have that darshan of Golok. And it's very, very rare. And I'll just read that sentence again. By Krishna's mercy, their eyes of bhakti are in the process of gradually opening. Thus, there are many grades of eligibility in this group. Some see a little, some see something more, and others see more still. To the extent that Krishna is merciful to them, they will see Golok. As long as they are in the sadhana stage of bhakti, whatever darshan they attain of Golok is tinged with some mayic bhav. After crossing the stage of sadhana and reaching the level of bhav, their darshan is somewhat pure. And when they arrive at the stage of prem, they begin to have darshan to full extent. So on the other side of prem, we come into sneha, man, rag, anurag, etc. Vijay Prabhu, in what respects are Golok and Braj different from each other? Goswami, everything that one sees in Braj is present in Golok. But the various aspects appear somewhat different because of the difference in the nishta of the observer. So they're the same, but they're relatively different according to the person observing. In fact, there is no difference between Golok and Vrindavan. They appear differently to different observers, depending on their different vision. Extremely ignorant people see everything in Braj as material. The vision of a person in Rajagun is somewhat more auspicious compared to this, and those who are situated in Sattva Gun have darshan of Shuddha Sattva according to their ability to see. Everyone's vision is different according to their adhikar. So this is not in black and white at all. This is according to our own practice and prayerful mood. Vijay, Prabhu, I have some realization, but will you kindly give an example to clarify the subject further? A material object cannot serve as a complete example to illustrate spiritual subjects, but still, even a partial indication can give rise to a full realization. We've already discussed this point twice before, that the material examples are not fully satisfying, but what else do we have? What's that? Chandranaya Saka. Yeah. Goswami, this is a very difficult problem. We are forbidden to reveal our own confidential realizations to others. When you also have some confidential realization, by Krishna's mercy, you should always keep it hidden. I will explain this subject to you only as far as our previous acharyas have revealed it, and by Krishna's mercy, you will be able to see the rest yourself. So this is basically what we're doing, reading through these. We're just hearing this patiently with submission, and in our own practice, we're going to incorporate whatever we can from these guidelines. Perception in Golok is purely spiritual, and there is not the slightest tinge of material perception. To nourish Ras there, the Chit Shakti has manifested varieties of bhavs in many places, and amongst them there is one spiritual conception known as Abhiman. That's the identity. For instance, Krishna has no beginning and no birth in Golok, but to assist the Leela, Vatsalya Ras is personified there by the conception, Abhiman. So Krishna doesn't take birth in Aprakat, Golok, but there is a conception in people's, in the Siddhas' minds that he has taken birth, especially to nourish Vatsalya Ras. Mother Yashoda, etc., must consider that he's their baby. That means he must have taken birth. But Krishna actually never takes birth there. This is not an easy topic to understand. But to assist the Leela, Vatsalya Ras is personified there by the conception, Abhiman, in the spiritual existence of fatherhood and motherhood in the forms of Nanda and Yashoda. So Nanda and Yashoda are there in the spiritual realm with the conception that Krishna is their child. And then again, the gopis will have conception that Krishna is their lover, etc. Again, wonderful varieties of Shringar Ras, such as separation, Vipralamba, and meeting, Sambho, exist in this conception, Abhiman. So there's the consciousness of separation, even though there is no separation in Golok. But there's an idea of separation, which will increase the meeting. If there's no Vipralamba, then the Milan is going to be very not so good. Conception form. Although the actual situation in Parakiya Bhav is Shuddha Swakiya, the self-conceptions Abhiman of Paramo beloved, Parakiya and Paramo Lava Upadi are eternally present in it. So these are actually like Krishna's eternal Shaktis. But there is a mood that we are not married to him. That's the extraordinary speciality of Boma Vrindavan, the Prakat Vrindavan, is that actually they are married. And Yogamaya has to arrange other wives to replace them, etc. So that's why the Leela is so colorful in Boma Vrindavan, whereas in the spiritual world, there is only the conception that Krishna is my Paramo. The reality is that they are Swakiya, that they are already completely, they're Shakti, Krishna's eternal Shaktis. But without that Parakiya mood, the dynamic of the relationship is not going to flourish. Just see, all these Abhiman are completely convincing in Braj. Yes, in Braj, those conceptions become a reality, for they are exhibited in a gross outward form by the potency of Yogamaya. Yes, Yogamaya has manifested all this. For example, in Braj, Yashoda labors to give birth to Krishna in her maternity room, and the Nityasiddha gopis have a parakya abhiman that arises from their marriages to their husbands, such as Abhimanyu and Govardhan Gopa. So Govardhan Gopa is Lalita's,
Husband.
husband.
Yes.
So, but in this world it's a reality, but in that world it's not a reality, but still they have the conception of that. In other words, the Abhiman of Golok are all visible in Braj in very tangible forms, which are managed by Yogamaya from the exceedingly subtle original reality. Yes, it's all reflecting from the original reality. There is not even the slightest trace of falsity within Braj, and it resembles Golok in all respects. Differences in vision arise only according to the degree of material obstruction of the observer. In other words, it's all there, all the time, but the observer, according to his qualification, can see it or not see it. Vijay. Then should one meditate on the appropriate aspects of Astakalya Leela by proper deliberation? Goswami. No, it is not like that. One who has darshan of Braj Leela should remember Astakalya Leela according to his realization. By Krishna's mercy, the Leela manifests itself in the sadhak's heart through the power of his bhajan. It is not necessary to try and improve the barbs of the Leela by one's own endeavors. You can't crash the gates of heaven, so to speak. It's the gift from the transcendental realm into the heart of the sincere sadhak. We must pray for mercy, pray for mercy, pray for mercy. We see in the history of all the previous great devotees like Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das, etc., when they're like the second generation, they spent their whole life praying for mercy practically. They were going around begging, weeping, crying for mercy from the Vaishnavas. Vijay. Then one should meditate on the appropriate aspects. Oh, I read that. One who has darshan of Braj Leela should remember Astakalya Leela according to his realization. By Krishna's mercy, the Leela manifests itself in the sadhak's heart through the power of his bhajan. It is not necessary to try and improve the barbs of the Leela by one's own endeavors. It's a natural flow from the heart. Nothing fictitious or forced at all, which is like practically foreign to us at the moment. Vijay. Yadrishi bhavanyasya sadir bhavati tadrishi. According to this logic, the perfection that one attains corresponds exactly to the type of meditation performed at the time of sadhana. So it seems that one must perform purified, immaculate meditation on Golok. Goswami. What you are saying is correct. All the perceptions in Braj are pure reality, and not even a single one is contrary to this. Otherwise, there would be a fault. Perfection occurs when sadhana becomes pure, and the purer one's meditation is at the time of sadhana, the faster one attains siddhi. That's a very beautiful way to say the pure. Huh?
What kind of siddhi? What does it mean?
That means perfection.
Perfection, no.
And there are many stages of perfection according, to our stage.
Okay.
For you, it might be like this. For someone else, it'll be like that, and so on. An increased stage of consciousness. You should endeavor in such a way that your sadhana may be accomplished beautifully, but still it is beyond your power to purify your sadhana. Only Krishna, what is within our power is our ability to control our minds and to focus and direct them where we are understanding the truth lies, where the sadhana bhajan that I should be performing, this we have in our hand. Only Krishna, through his Achintya Shakti, can do this. If you try to do it yourself, you will become entangled in the thorny thickets of Gyan. And we see there are many Gyanis. They know so many different things about Gyan, but they never actually go there. They can say it all. They can point in the directions. I've met many, but they're not actually able to practice it. They're not actually able to enter into the samadhi. But if Krishna bestows his mercy, there will be no injurious result. Yes, we are just hungry for Krishna's mercy. Vijay, today I have become fortunate. I want to ask one further question. Is the abode of the Dwarka consorts only in Vaikuntha or in Golok as well? Goswami, the endless Anand of the Chit Jagat is attained in Vaikuntha. There is no attainment higher than Vaikuntha. Cities such as Dwarka are there, and the young ladies of those cities reside in their own palaces, rendering service to Krishna. The only ones who are situated in the Madhurya Ras of Golok are the Brajramanis. All the pastimes that are in Braj are in Golok. However, it is mentioned in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad that Rukminiji is situated in Swakya Ras in Mathura Puri, which is in Golok. So Rukmini is who? She is actually Chandravali. Just like Satyabhama, she is actually Radharani. So that's a very special tattva. Vijay, Prabhu, do all the activities of Golok occur in the same sequence as I see them in Braj? When he's saying Braj here, he means it's like the Boma Vrindavan.
In Auckland.
Yes, Prakat. Goswami, yes, they all exist in the same order, but without the divisions based on Mayic conceptions. I mean, the demons in Golok also are there in conceptual forms. They believe that Krishna defeated Trinavrata, Putana, Shakatasura, etc., Agasura. They believe he defeated Kaliya. They have the conception, the abhiman of this, fully.
Memory.
Yes, like a sanskar, like an impression. It's an abhiman. It's like an abhiman. Yes, they have that conception, but it's not a reality in Golok because there's only union of Radha and Krishna ultimately. However, all such Mayic conceptions have their own supremely pure spiritual origins, which I cannot explain. So the reflections of the demons, etc., have their spiritual origins. This you can understand only by the power of your bhajan. Vijay, the whole of mundane existence, prapancha, becomes completely dissolved at the time of the universal dissolution, Mahapralaya. So in what sense is Braj Leela eternally present? He's talking about Braj Leela in this world. If it's all destroyed in the Mahapralaya, how can it be eternal? Goswami, Braj Leela is eternal from both the Prakat and the Aprakat perspective. The present conception, Samprata Prati, of Braj Leela is eternally existing in one of the unlimited universes, which revolve in a cyclic order like a wheel. So Krishna is always manifesting in some particular universe. A particular Leela now present in one Brahmand appears the next moment in another Brahmand. Thus that particular Leela is Aprakat Leela in the first Brahmand, but it is present in the next Brahmand as Prakat Leela. So it goes from actually happening like Aprakat, and then the next moment it moves to another Brahmand where it's seen by the residents as Aprakat, but in the one where it was previously, then it becomes Prakat. Thus that particular Leela is Aprakat Leela in the first Brahmand, but it is present in the next Brahmand as Prakat Leela. In this way, all types of Prakat Leela are eternal. Even in the Aprakat state, all the Leelas are eternally present. We must always understand that point. Vijay, If Prakat Lila occurs in all the Brahmans, does Brajdam exist in each Brahmand? Goswami: yes, it does. Golok is a self-manifesting phenomenon which is present in every universe as the abode of Krishna Lila. Golok also manifests itself in the heart of all Shuddha Bhaktas. Very beautiful to consider. Vijay: why does Mathura Mandal remain manifest in a universe where the Leela is non-manifest? So yes, if the Leela has moved to another Brahman, why does it appear that, like presently, Krishna's not directly residing in Vrindavan? He's performing his pastimes in another Brahman. So he's asking, why does Mathura Mandal remain manifest in a universe where the Leela is non-manifest? Aprakat. Goswami: the Aprakat Leela is eternally present in the Dham, which remains to bestow mercy upon the bhaktas who reside there. So there's an influence that always is there, that eternal, just like here in Goradam. If we go to the Yog Pit today, we can practically sense the presence of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is certainly here today. This is his eternal Dham. He's always here. He's always manifesting his pastimes. Even though now he's in another Brahmand, performing the same pastimes in another Brahmand. But still, he's here.
Another Brahman, it is Prakat Lila. And this,
No, another Brahmand in this material world. That whole conception of Mahaprabhu's Leela has shifted to another Brahmand.
and we call this Prakat Lila.
No,
No?
no. In Aprakat Leela,
Prakat.
the Brahmand is billions and billions, unlimited billions of planets. So when Mahaprabhu has concluded his pastimes here, immediately he begins his pastimes in another planet,
Yes.
in this world, in these worlds, in the material worlds, in the Aprakat, in the Prakat.
Yes, Prakat.
And then that's going on eternally, eternally. The same with Krishna. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has explained this very, very clearly in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, exactly the same. That Krishna's roadshow is going on eternally. As soon as he's concluding here, he goes to another Brahmand and begins again. And then his pastimes are not manifest here, but still we remember them here. The Aprakat Leela is eternally present in the Dham, which remains to bestow mercy upon the bhaktas who reside there. That day's discussion drew to a close. While returning to his residence, Vijay Kumar repeatedly meditated upon his seva in Astakalya Leela. Thus ends the 31st chapter of Jayabhadama, entitled Madhurya Ras Vichar, Swakiya Nayaks, and Krishna Swarup as Madhurya Ras Nayak. So phenomenal. So many truths in that. Actually, every time, personally, I complete a chapter, as I've shared before, I just want to go back to the beginning of the chapter and read it through again, and again, and again. It's actually filled with divine nectar and beauty. It has a very powerful effect on the consciousness, just hearing these truths. So on Monday, we'll begin chapter 32. So, Jayabhadama ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki